Hello, and welcome to Lamentations from Albion, a podcast all about the burning wreckage that was the United Kingdom and its slow, painful death. I'm Alexis, joined by Cypher Duran.
Hiya.
And Unity.
Hello.
And in this episode, we have an election special, bringing you a John Oliver-style look at the last week tonight, a week in which Labour has imploded, the Conservatives have made hate crime legal, and UKIP has finally died. But before any of that, we have to start with the most English of traditions. War with France.
Yay!
It's been a while.
It hasn't even been a week since the British government announced that it was sending two warships, HMS Seven and HMS Tamar, to the island of Jersey to... What did they say it was? To
monitor the situation?
Yeah,
monitor the situation.
Because we were monitoring the situation,
Yes.
And then the French sent warships, and they were doing a maritime patrol, I think was the term they used. It's confusing. It's stupid.
It's very confusing, and it's once again proof that Brexit has not worked for anyone. This comes in the latest of a long line of fuck-ups involving fish that Brexit has brought about, including completely destroying our export markets. Because, you know, Brexit is going to bring us the best deals, simply the best deals.
We won't have to deal with EU rules anymore. We won't have to... we can do what we want. We can set our own rules. We can trade with whoever we want. Oh dear, our entire industries are collapsing. Fuck.
This latest scuffle, as it were, is only the latest in a long line of military actions that the British government has taken regarding fishing.
Oh, God, the fucking... What? The, Cod Wars with Iceland.
The Cod Wars.
The Cod Wars... The dumbest fucking military action in a long series of British military dumb actions.
Oh, my dad did his degree dissertation on the Cod Wars.
I'm so glad you said degree dissertation, because for a second I thought you were saying... My dad was involved in the Cod Wars, and I was about to mock you heavily.
No, my dad did a dissertation on it called the fish steaks. So, you can tell where I inherited my humour from. But I was looking up the Cod Wars a while back, and it's like, Iceland doesn't even have a freaking navy, and they still managed to win. How embarrassing! No, yes, we go to war with a country over fish and lose to the country with no navy.
And that was the last time that England would ever be humiliated by Iceland again.
I mean, I think that Britain being humiliated by its neighbours and ancient enemies is, just something we're going to have to deal with for the next, at least 50 years.
Oh, it's not that we're getting embarrassed by our neighbours. We're getting embarrassed by our own fucking government. Bloody morons.
I mean, okay,
what's more, this announcement came on the eve of the elections.
I'm sure that was merely a coincidence. It's not
merely a coincidence.
It's not like a Conservative government has ever declared a war purely to win an election. Falklands.
I don't know what you mean.
Not that you. Sorry, I just had a terrible cough there.
Yeah.
It's very depressing to me that for as many of us who are looking at this and going, what the fuck are you doing, you absolute morons, escalating the situation by sending in warships, there are just as many people who are going to look at this, and who did look at this and go, fuck yeah.
Oh, do you want to know a truly amusing bit of history I found out?
Please go ahead.
1939, United Kingdom nearly became the United Kingdom of England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland and France, as the UK Cabinet had agreed to a merger with France, and it was just waiting for the French equivalents to sign off, and Churchill was on a train heading down to Dover to hop on the boat to finalise this deal where France and United Kingdom become one nation.
That would have been
under
awesome.
one parliament.
That would have actually been really fucking good.
Yeah, and obviously one particular Frenchman who has now gone down in infamy for his collaboration with the Nazis, convinced the French government not to accept it.
I'm surprised that it wasn't Charles de Gaulle,
To be fair,
honest, because if
when
there's
you
one
said
thing...
one Frenchman
Charles de
who
Gaulle
went down
wasn't-
in infamy, my brain was going Charles de Gaulle, Charles de Gaulle, Charles de Gaulle. And you were like, for collaborating with the Nazis, like, oh, no, it wasn't him.
It can't have been him.
And
I'll give
Marshal
I'll give Charles de Gaulle one thing. He was very good at fighting Nazis, but on the other hand, fuck Charles de Gaulle.
Yeah, terrible fucking person. But at least he fought Nazis.
He fought Nazis, and that's a good thing. I think we can all agree that's a good thing.
Yeah. I'll give that to Charles de Gaulle. He did keep on fighting Nazis.
When the rest of his government was like, yeah, let's just like hand over so many Jews that the Germans tell us to stop, please, we can't process this many.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Britain deploying warships to a tiny island in the middle of the ocean was the last military action that would happen for the week.
Yeah.
On to the election, then.
Great.
Well,
the election.
That was
a
occurrence.
No. That was a shit
Tell us how
show.
you really feel.
That was an absolute shit show.
For reference, we should probably go through the gains and losses across the board.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's see.
So, Labour lost 8 councils, lost 327 councillors. The Liberal Democrats gained 1 council, gained 8 councillors. The Green Party gained 88 councillors. That's good. That's good. UKIP lost all of their councillors and now have nothing.
Yes.
Which is excellent news.
Yep.
But why do you need UKIP anymore when you have the Conservative Party, who won 13 councils and 235 councillors?
You are forgetting the entertaining results that the Green Party is now the 3rd party in London, having got 3 members of the London Assembly to Lib Dems 2.
Yes, that's right.
Sadiq Khan managed to hold on to the morality of London, barely on second votes, even after the worst non-campaign ever seen in British politics for the London elections by the Conservatives, where they found the worst possible candidate they could possibly have resurrected from the bowels of hell to serve as their mayoral candidate, and yet still he did rather well for himself.
Shocking.
Sean Bailey, in the first round of voting, still managed to get 35% of the vote compared to Sadiq Khan's 40%.
Yeah.
Now, it's worth noting that Sadiq Khan did win, and on the second preference, he did end up with 55% of the overall vote, which is good. However, Sean Bailey was still left with 44% of the overall counting. That's not good.
It's not.
That's still not.
I mean,
great.
it's not great, but Sadiq Khan won.
It could have been worse.
It could have been a lot worse. Sadiq Khan could have lost.
It
could have been much worse. But for better results, we have to look to Manchester.
Oh yeah, because the most hated Manchurian, at least from the Tories' point of view, managed to keep his job.
Is it amazing that when a local candidate focuses on local issues and doesn't dance to the tune of the Conservative government, they get popular and they get votes?
It's almost as if someone who is clear what he stands for, stands up for the people he represents. That the people he represents go, well, that guy's got our back. We'll vote him in again. He seems to know what matters to us, and is willing to go up against the full force of the British establishment to protect us.
It's amazing how Saturday was a very dark day for me. And speaking as a Labour member, as a Labour officer, in the background, there were a lot of people who were very much depressed. I had friends talking to me, telling me that I should basically just give up on the party. And
I think you should.
I I see where you're coming from there, but I'm not so sure.
Fair enough.
I
mean, you can see from the inside, so you can see a different view to me, so I accept that.
Thing is, I know that the party right now is in a shit state, but it can't stay that way forever. And if I leave now,
if I leave
better. Now, and people like me think the same way and say, fuck this, there's going to be no one left to actually take it back.
You are right. You are right at the end of the day. I guess I'm still very, very bitter that.
No, I completely understand. I completely understand that because I'm furious at Keir Starmer, and we'll get to that in a second.
Yes, we fucking will.
But on the whole, Labour, it's no time to begin mourning Labour as an institution because it isn't dead yet.
No.
It still did rather well in places that we weren't expecting, and at the end of the day, there was still proof that where we tried, we were actually succeeding, especially Manchester. The problem is that across the board, we were still hampered by a man who is the physical embodiment of entropy, and that's our public face.
Yeah, I think that
I don't know. I agree with the people who have said that no one knows what Keir Starmer stands for, because what does he stand for?
Oh, he has a very clear policy of not having a spine.
He stands for the rich. He stands for the elite. He stands for not opposing the government in any meaningful way. Like, he's just a worthless piece of shit. He's a fucking lawyer. He's a fucking lawyer. What do people expect? He's not a working man.
As far back as a year ago, I was talking to people about the fact that in the middle of this pandemic, as things were getting worse and worse, Labour weren't putting up any sort of challenge. They were sitting by idly, rubber stamping everything and just letting things go through. And at the time, I was told, but this is a national emergency. They need to be there, and they need to back the government, and they need to back everything. And then we had the utter failure that was Eat Out to Help Out, the big second wave, and the crossing of 100,000 deaths. By sitting there and doing nothing and supporting the government, Labour categorically failed and have allowed the Conservatives to utterly destroy this country and get rewarded with the influx of votes that came in because Boris Johnson's just so charismatic. He's charismatic enough to carry the dead horse that is Conservative ideology, and I can't disagree with that because he is charismatic, but he also happens to be a charlatan, a fraudster.
He's
a demagogue.
I mean, he's a grifter of the highest order. He really is. But that's kind of one of the things that categorizes grifters, isn't it? They are charismatic.
I've sold austerity to Ognebroll, New Haverbrook, and by golly, it put them on the map.
Oh, yes.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
I can't remember what the other
We
one
need to make that GIF.
Oh, God. What was it? Oh, yeah. The SNP managed to get within one seat of a majority in Scotland, so...
I mean...
Yep, the SNP have...
Realistically, they do have a majority if we count all of the other people within the government who will back... the most important thing that they are going to do in the next fucking 10 years... at least for us in England, I should say, rather than because they're going to do a shitload more important things for Scottish people. But for us being all English people here, the most important thing for us that they will be doing in the next 10 years is going to be the independence referendum. Again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they have, sure, they're one seat away from majority, but there is at least 10 people who will back them on the whole independence fucking thing. So they've got a majority, they will fucking do it. It's fine.
I believe with the Scottish Greens, they have the majority needed.
Yeah.
100%.
I do know it's one of the things that I've heard is that the reason why the Lib Dems didn't do as well in Scotland as they would expect to, and is a lot of people would vote for us normally have voted Green because they want the independent vote. And the thing is, at the independence referendum, I was going, no, Scotland should stay part of the UK. It's in their best interest. Now I'm going, run away, save yourselves.
Yeah, seriously.
I completely understand that.
But that is not party policy.
Yeah, from a purely practical point of view, the last election was very much built on a lot of... I don't want to insult anyone listening from the SNP who has sympathetic views there, because I completely understand. But I do think that the argument for Scottish independence is a flawed one, and it relies on a lot of... It does rely economically on the fact that Scotland gets all of its natural gas to use and to sell, but I think that's also a very irresponsible thing to do, given the given the nature of climate change and the need to switch away from resources like that. However, from a political sense, they deserve to get away from this shit show of a nation, and if they do it, I would prefer them to stay in the UK. In fact, I would prefer the Scottish Nationals to have power within Westminster as part of the coalition on the left. But that is a hypothetical situation. We need to think about what is practical right now, and right now it's better for them to just run away and get the fuck out while they can, because they have an easy out.
Mm-hmm.
They might as well take it.
I think that you're very right there. It's in kind of like the long term, I think them sticking with the union is probably the best idea, but
practically, I still say that the best out of any outcome is a federated Europe.
Oh, 100%, yeah. The United States of Europe would be a kind of amazing thing. I mean, it'd be difficult to do, it would be fractious, it would be complicated, but it would work at the end of the day.
It would be the first step towards a true world government.
Yeah,
which
a lot of people will freak out about hearing you say that. We'll get so many.
We're not part of the Illuminati.
The New World Order and how it's all about the Jews.
No. The Microsoft chip in my brain is telling me that vaccines will control you.
Talk about vaccines. I got my first dose.
Brag about it.
Fucking lucky you.
Brag about it, why don't you?
Yeah.
It is possibly the worst decision I ever made, because
Fuck off.
I got back, had a little... thought, I'm feeling a bit tired, I'll have a quick nap and then get out again. 2 hours later, I was woken up by a colleague, wondering where the feck I was. I said, I'll come out shortly. Went down the stairs, made sure the boys had food to eat. Then it was 8 o'clock, and it's like, why are my bones on fire? This is not a good feeling.
I have... yeah. People, certain people do have some fairly interesting reactions to it.
Yes. People have had certain reactions to it. However, on the whole, the vaccine is still safe. If you can, please go and get vaccinated. If you're an American, please go get vaccinated, whatever age you are, you lucky bastards.
Yeah.
I want a vaccine.
I'm getting vaccinated in about 3 weeks' time. No, 3 weeks after I move. Sorry. Not 3 weeks' time. Right. Damn it. Because
lucky.
Where I'm moving to, so for folks not in the know, I am currently, with my wife, engaged in a lengthy process known as moving all of my fucking shit to America. I'm going to be one of those dirty expats.
How disgusting!
Yeah, I know.
You're abandoning the.
I'm
abandoning the scepter dial.
That's a fucking thing. But yeah, I'm going to be moving to Washington State. And do you know what the really good thing about that is up there? You just book an appointment and get vaccinated. Washington State, it's open for everybody.
That sounds so nice.
That sounds egalitarian.
That sounds nice. I wish I could get vaccinated, but I am young, so I can't.
Yeah, you're young and healthy. I mean...
I said baby. I'm young. I am definitely not healthy.
Take up smoking. and then you'll have like a pre-existing condition that you can get play on to get vaccinated.
Let's not advise people start picking up smoking
No,
just to get
seriously.
vaccinated.
Get vaccinated. Do whatever you fucking can to get vaccinated. I don't care what it is. It doesn't have to be legal. Just get fucking vaccinated. Everybody out there in the world, do it now.
Actually, you might be able to phone up your vac centres towards the end of the day and say, do you have any spare vaccine you need to use up?
That'll work as well.
And then get because some people have gotten vaccinated that way by being, the official stance of Lamentation from Albion is get fucking vaccinated.
Yeah.
Get vaccinated.
Do crimes, get vaccinated, be gay.
Well, we will not insist upon people's sexual orientation.
Oh, fair enough.
That's very much a them thing, but the rest of
It's a very mangled version of that, but yeah. Anyway, sorry.
So, going back to the election.
Oh.
Labour.
just getting back to the election, and my everything in my body just dropped about a foot into the floor.
You weren't out campaigning for it, so you know.
Yeah.
So Keir Starmer. Keir fucking Starmer.
Keir Starmer, who could not organise a piss up in the brewery.
Smarmy cunt that he is.
He couldn't win a by-election against a government in his party's homelands.
Oh, I'm so angry about that. Did you know Jeremy Corbyn ruined our chances by going to everyone in the constituency and spitting on every voter? Jeremy Corbyn is to blame for the party's failures.
No,
I'm sorry.
Did you see
what?
He brought back Peter Mandelson, fucking Dracula?
I know, he's brought back Mandelson.
And Mandelson was like, it's all Corbyn's fault. It's like, Corbyn isn't what the fuck?
Jeremy Corbyn sabotaged us.
Jeremy Corbyn, I'm sorry, you cannot blame him for anything. Been over a year, which is an epoch in politics.
Yeah.
It has been an entire year of Keir Starmer's whole argument being, I'm not Jeremy Corbyn. And when it fails, people say, well then who the fuck are you? And he says, I'm not Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn is responsible for this. Oh my god.
I might have my problems with Jeremy Corbyn, and even more so with his brother.
Fuck Piers. Oh, fuck Piers.
Piers is
fuck
horrible.
Piers. Piers is rubbish and useless.
I mean, this is unfortunately what you get with political families. Like, their entire family is like a political family. And, it's what you get. Like, some people will go one way, some people will go another. And his brother's a fucking nutcase.
Sometimes you just have the evil twin.
Yeah. Fucking weird anti-vaxxer moron.
Get vaccinated.
He came over to my manor and caused trouble. So,
Did you throw bricks at him? Because you should have done.
No, because we were under lockdown and I was obeying the law.
Fuck the law. Go throw bricks at Piers Morgan. I mean, shit. Piers Corbyn.
Is it just something with
someone
people
called Piers?
Yeah, right. I mean, go throw bricks at Piers Morgan as well, but Piers Corbyn.
I'm sorry, but your baby, he looks like a total bastard. We've already called him Piers for you.
Yeah.
So Labour's response to these results was that it was Jeremy Corbyn's fault that we lost in Hartlepool, and that across the nation we just didn't do hard enough. And Keir Starmer promised a vigorous reshuffle, a vigorous change of tactic that would see the Labour Party reborn anew. So he swapped some people in the front bench around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that
bold new strategy.
Well, didn't it?
A bold new strategy. He was going to get to the bottom of what the problem was, and the problem was definitely already the party, and definitely not him. No, it can't be him. It can't be the person that everyone says we don't know who he is, and we don't know what he stands for, and we don't know what Labour stand for anymore. It's got to be everyone else.
Well, I know what Labour stands for now. It stands for exactly the same thing it did under Tony Blair.
It's true that Labour want to transform the country. Unfortunately, they want to transform it into 1997.
Well, that would still be an improvement of what we've got at the moment.
I mean, to be fair,
I guess
getting nuked would probably make the situation better at this point. So fuck it.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
if at the very least, if we were nuked, we would have some interesting new candidates.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
you'd have
The head of the Cockroach Liberation Front would be a fantastic PM, I'm sure.
Yeah. Right now we're suffering a crisis in the Labour Party, particularly on the left, because part of the problem we have is that we don't have anyone in a great position to do anything.
No.
Well, potentially the biggest figure of our generation for leftist issues has been removed from the party and is actively kept away and is targeted whenever he pokes his head above the parapet because anti-Semitism. So who else do we have? Who else do we have in Labour on the left?
I mean, to be fair, there are more than just Jeremy Corbyn. There
are more than just Jeremy Corbyn.
But a lot of them are very old. And
a lot of them are either very old or they're very young and inexperienced. And I say that myself, being someone who hopefully one day will be pushing to fill that role.
Yes, I hope so. I fucking hope so.
I would love
to see you.
But
as
I love the ambition
candidate.
that you're already thinking, I'm going to be the leader of the Labour Party. And I will be so happy if you achieve that.
I
might even vote for the Labour Party if you're in charge of it.
I mean, it's not like I've got strong competition at the moment.
I'm sure there's some pot plants in Millbank Tower, which
Keir Starmer, are you ready to debate your opponents? A wet paper bag and an old napkin.
Oh, and this aspidistra.
No. I think that the honourable gentleman, wet napkin, should wait his turn to speak. Fucking, he's a prick. He's a prick.
Oh, he's absolutely useless. I said it right from day one that I wasn't happy with him, and I said it right all the way through the pandemic. Labour's inaction is going to cost us dearly.
Yeah, you did.
And what do you know?
It's depressing when you're right, isn't it?
Very depressing.
Yeah.
Very depressing.
At least it looks like the leader of Lib Dems trying, but it's very hard to do anything when you're the leader of the
who is the leader of the Lib Dems?
I
don't even know.
Like, I genuinely don't know who the leader of the Lib Dems is anymore.
Genuinely, I don't know. There was Nick Clegg, then there was
that woman that everyone hated.
There was Joe Swinson, who I fucking hate. Yeah, there was Joe Swinson, and then there was Tim Fallon, who was...
Tim Fallon was before...
Was Tim Fallon before Joe?
It was Cleggy, then Tim Fallon, then Joe, then currently Ed.
Ed what?
We've already forgotten his surname.
Ed Davies.
Ed Davies.
I've never heard of Ed Davies.
He's the most forgettable person ever, because I literally know nothing about him.
This is the thing, is if you're not, like, whilst I hate to bash the BBC...
no, please, bash the BBC. Bash them hard.
Fuck you, Laura.
Their attitude to politics seems to be, like, you have to have the leader of the government and the government ministers on, and their shadow equivalents, but we also need to have this random nobody who has appeared in one thing and is an absolute twat who should be twatted every time his face appears on television and get twatted some more. But the leader of any of the other parties, so like, we're discussing Scotland. Let's not put the SNP on. We don't want to hear them. Oh, Wales. Well, we don't want to put up anyone from Wales on this. We'll just have some random English people talk about Wales.
Utterly shocking. It's almost like Laura Koonsberg is the political editor or something. Oh, right, yeah. You remember her, in the election when she did the illegal thing by announcing a Conservative victory, like 2 days before she would have, before any of the results were in.
If it was truly a BBC political interview, they would have the Conservative member dressed up as a superhero and put the Labour member in a U-shaped coat.
Oh, Jesus.
Remember, Rishi Sunak is a superhero who's here to save the economy, and Jeremy Corbyn is an evil socialist who we've imposed the Kremlin behind.
Remember, Rishi Sunak has to be a good person because he's a person of colour. It's the most utterly ridiculous, tokenistic stuff I've ever seen in my life. The Conservatives are taking
How are the
kind of race-related,
minority...
like liberal and like leftist kind of like racial talking points and like trying to empower people of colour and taking it and then taking the most insane and sycophantic people they can and just jamming them and being like, it's a person of colour, why aren't you happy?
Well, maybe because you found the most evil woman on the planet and put her in charge of the Home Office.
Yeah,
fuck her
between the
so
two
much.
of them, they are literally just diversity hires, and that's a horrible thing for me to say, but it's literally the truth, and they're both evil.
I don't know. I half think that Priti Patel was put in position because she was truly evil, and the fact that she was brown was just a benefit which they would hope that she can do the evil stuff without, getting the attacked because she's brown and our opponents won't attack brown people. It's like, no, we believe in equality. That means we'll call everyone on their bullshit.
Fuck.
I remember going door to door in 2019, back in my hometown, talking to people on the doorstep about why Labour needed to be voted in the area. And the number of people who claimed that Jeremy Corbyn was a sexist and he hated women because Theresa May, the number of people who held that opinion was kind of shocking to me.
So he opposed Theresa May and she was a female Prime Minister and that made him a sexist?
Yes, he was a horrible sexist who hated women.
That hurts my brain. That is taking every kind of leftist talking point, turning it on its head and using it to bash Jeremy Corbyn in the face. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Oh God, my head is actually physically hurting trying to
holy shit!
Figure that one out.
Are we getting Cypher to empathise with Corbyn now?
I give him shit because of how he acted over Brexit, and his less than brilliant reaction to the anti-Semitism things. But I would never even think that someone would call him sexist.
Yeah. It boggles the mind, doesn't it? It really does.
The fact that he treated her in the same way he would treat a male MP is the most feminist thing on the planet. Feminism is not about idealizing women. It's about treating people as equals.
Yeah.
Based on their
fair, but
actions, not their genitalia.
He treated her as the political opponent she was rather than responding to anything about her sex. And that's about as good as we can hope for in British political life.
Well, in almost anything, it's like if you treat people by the role they're doing rather than their gender presentation or identity, it's like that's the fundamental.
That's fair.
I'm just going to say, I kind of think we should get off this topic because my brain cannot work this one out.
To be fair, I think most of our brains can't work anything in British politics out at the moment because it's so broken.
Well, fortunately, we've come to the end of talking about the local elections and how Labour have completely fucked things up. So let's instead move on to the Conservative Party.
If you'll excuse me, I'm going to go and parody redacted myself in the bathroom.
Yeah, try not to redact yourself too hard.
No, I'm gonna redact myself until I spurt redacted all over the bathroom wall.
Right.
That was more a masturbation joke than anything else, so don't take that the wrong way.
Okay.
Is there a good way or right way to take that?
I don't know.
Anyway.
I'm at that point where I'm just like I'm so angry, and I'm trying to like stop myself from screaming incoherently,
Yeah, it does feel like that quite
and
a
it
lot.
makes my brain do stupid things.
But don't worry, because we've still got the Queen's speech to cover. And oh boy, if you think things were bad before, get ready for the death of British democracy.
I
will
not
admit,
have enough booze in the house.
Because of like all the moving stuff, I've not watched the Queen's speech. I know nothing that happened in there, so I'm just gonna go with it and just try not to scream incoherently.
Well, let's start with where I personally have the most at stake: the online safety bill.
Right. Okay.
Because you know how we keep trying to censor material online. Well, this will place requirements on tech giants to tackle harmful and illegal content.
Sounds like a fairly sensible bill that everyone should support. You know.
You say that, but we're sitting there thinking how they fucked this up.
The problem with an online safety bill is you just know that coming from the party who tried to ban porn, this is going to end up being a horrible mess.
Oh, yeah, I remember when they tried to ban porn and then just like they didn't exactly backtrack on it. They just stopped talking about it completely, and then it just went away quietly.
It amazes me just how much they don't understand still how the internet works and how technology works, and they just think an online safety bill, that'll stop everything we don't like.
Yeah, I mean,
you're talking about a party who wants to roll back metrification.
Like, to be fair, an online safety bill I think sounds like a good idea. A bill to in one country to force tech giants to censor content from harmful extremist.
Unity. Unity.
Sweet summer child Unity.
No, shush. Don't worry, we'll get there. We'll really fucking get there.
It sounds like a good idea. Well,
Unity.
I can't believe that they would ruin it in some way. That sounds like the sort of thing only an evil government would do.
Oh, Unity, you sweet summer child! Don't worry, we'll get to that in a minute.
Oh, no.
We've also got new powers for the police over protests and new sentences for serious crimes.
That's
did they actually ratify that?
They're trying to. They're trying very hard.
Towards,
I am so glad I'm going to a country where the police are very, very gun happy, because probably makes me safer than being over here.
You lucky bastard. Well, we also have the Dissolution and Calling of Parliament Bill, looking to get rid of the fixed 5-year periods.
In favour of what? Oh God, what are they doing?
In favour of a return to the power to call a general election. Now, I must stress that this doesn't mean that they will be able to postpone elections indefinitely. For the moment, Parliament will still be dissolved 5 years from the day that Parliament is enacted.
Okay.
So they won't get to just stop having elections. The problem with this comes over the fact that, number one, this gives them more power to do whatever the fuck they want when it comes to calling an early election.
Yeah.
And going, yeah, this is fine, we're just going to roll with this now and use it as our mandate. It also stops them from being challenged as they were last year with Brexit, where they tried to dissolve Parliament and were stopped by the Supreme Court. At least that is my reading of it.
Yeah, I mentioned this in my council group's WhatsApp. So, does anyone else feel like Boris is wanting to call a early election? And the general theory is that earliest May next year, maybe September 20.
At the moment, we're thinking about 2023. He will call an election.
Yeah, that's what some of the people on our end are thinking.
Why September 2023?
Because it is a year earlier than is otherwise required, and also Also there it prevents them from having any other surprises, but it also stops COVID from being an ongoing pressing
Fair.
issue.
Also, there is a feeling that they've gonna have to dump a lot of will want to dump a lot more austerity on, and having a 5-year period before next election to do that is in their benefit. But that's just
To be fair, I think that
theorising.
they don't really need much of an excuse to dump austerity on, because they could just enact some austerity in the background, and and then just blame it on COVID and Brexit, and just be like, well, we're having teething problems. Europe is fighting against us. They are the evil empire trying to stop us being a sovereign power in the world.
Yeah. The things I've been hearing from are the people who got me elected. So
Fair.
if these people are much more experienced in politics than me are saying that September 23 is the
Well, fortunately, that gives me enough time to prepare over here as the
Yes.
as the campaign planning. So who knows? Maybe by then I will be able to challenge my local MP. Probably not though, because this area is very conservative. But one can
I'll
hope.
challenge him to a duel. Slap him in the
Just
face
when
and
you're
demand
going
satisfaction.
around, like for their votes and everything, when you're campaigning, just wear really smart clothing and a Rolex. Like just like get a fake Rolex from China. Make yourself look really prosperous, and try
to
and
be
play
fair,
on the whole centrist fucking Labour movement a bit, and then go hard fucking left and stab those motherfuckers in the back.
I mean, to be fair, I do have the posh accent.
You really do.
I do have the
insanely
sound of
insanely
a
posh name.
respectable. I do have, well, it's not as posh as it used to be, but I do have an insanely posh appearance. I do have the voice of decorum. I can fool all the losers into thinking that I'm going to support them.
Yes, do it. Stab those fuckers in the back, just like they stabbed us in the back.
Well, if they've gone to vote, they're going to have to bring some identification, because a new part of the Queen's speech is the Electoral Integrity Bill.
Fuck off. Fuck off.
Right.
Fuck off.
Now, I want to talk about this one specifically for a moment,
Do it.
because this is such a fucking terrible idea.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, electoral integrity. We have a very low rate of voter fraud in this
Last
country.
general election, 6 cases.
Oh, thank you for that, Sci-Fi. Yes, we don't have it. We don't have it. It's not an issue. There has never been an issue, and it's the same thing as in America. This is a solution to a problem that doesn't exist.
Oh no, it is a solution to a problem that does exist. The problem being that people vote
Poor
for
people
anyone
voting.
apart from the Conservatives.
Yes, and therein lies why this bill is so toxic.
Mhm.
Because for a while now, Conservative politicians have been going on the television and they have been saying that this bill won't cost anyone anything, because everyone has ID, surely. And that's how they get you. Because, okay, yeah, some people have ID, and to be fair, you need ID to go and pick up a package. But that's not a right. That's not a constitutional right. We have a constitutional right in this country to vote.
Mm-hmm.
By putting this in the way, you are making it harder for people who do not have ID for whatever reason. Who knows? You might get caught short. You might not have the money to pay for it. Or you might be transgender and you might feel very uncomfortable about using an ID.
Yeah.
Especially in places where they may not be too receptive to the idea that you have to hold up something that says you're male but you look female.
Yeah.
This exercise is going to disenfranchise people who wouldn't vote Conservative. It is a blatant attempt at trying to grab onto power for another decade. That is the theme of this opening of Parliament. It is them trying to ensure that they get another decade in control of the Commons. And that is disturbing to think about when I think that 5 or 6 years ago, I was listening to my then politics teacher talk about how she wouldn't be able to survive another few years of Tory rule because of how badly she'd been fucked with her pay, and we're facing down the barrel of another 5 years of government.
Yep.
It's terrifying.
It is terrifying, and especially once the Conservatives have the ability to call a general election whenever they like, they will be able to basically call elections when they are riding high and ensure themselves a few extra years, and then fuck up for a couple of years and then call another election when they're riding high again.
Absolutely.
It's a perpetual election machine if it's enacted by a government that has no morals whatsoever.
The thing you have to remember is that for quite a lot of these smaller parties, elections wipe out their entire cash supply.
Yeah.
They can afford. Well, with Labour and the Conservatives have large people can donate huge amounts of money constantly. Well, Conservatives have individual people can just dump truckloads of money onto them. Labour has the unions who can fund them quite well. The Green parties, Lib Dems, SNP, Plaid Cymru, all depend on their individual members to fund them. So if you call elections off enough, you can just bankrupt your opponents.
I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah, you're right.
No, I hadn't even thought about that as well, but yeah, it's a very valid thing.
Because I know after the last because I sit in council for the party, we discuss the finances of the party as a whole, and we had to expend most of our cash reserves to fight the last general election. And with things, all the lockdowns, we've not been able to do our fundraising we usually do. So a lot of the smaller parties, well, the actual small parties rather than the rich people's vanity project parties, struggle to fight elections, are almost entirely dependent on members getting out and hitting the street and delivering things, whereas the Conservatives especially just post out all their leaflets because they do not have the ground troops, so to speak, to deliver.
I think what you're getting at is something that has been very evident within right-wing politics for a long time, which is that there are these very large groups of people and very rich people, billionaires, predominantly from the UK and the US, who will fund conservative, Republican, whatever, far right, right wing politicians for absurd amounts of money, just to get them to run, just to think people like Rupert Murdoch, the Koch brothers, brother. Oh yeah, the other one died, didn't he?
He died.
Fucking
Hooray!
loser.
Oh, I love it. I love it when old white men die.
Yes, fuck him. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of others that will do this. They will feed millions of dollars into the right-wing political system, and people on the left don't have any way to really fight against that. As much as you'd like to think that having the right views and saying things that the people resonate with will get you elected, that isn't really true. It is how much money gets pumped into your campaign, because you can completely eclipse the person who's saying the right, cool things for the majority of people, the really progressive left-wing views, basically. You can eclipse that completely with just blankets and blankets of social media, TV, and like internet sidebar ads for your party, for you. You can spam out millions of like hundreds of millions of emails to like anybody and everybody. You can like commission entire TV shows. You can put all of your candidate, all of your right wing candidates on things like the BBC's political shows. Just use them as propaganda hours. Like, you can do all of these things with ridiculous amounts of money. And it doesn't matter if your opponents are saying the right and good things. It doesn't matter if, like, Jeremy Corbyn, for instance, was saying incredibly good things and, said some things about, hey, maybe Israel shouldn't be bombing Palestine. And then all of that money was able to turn that very sensible critique of a country doing a bit of a genocide onto he's just an anti-Semite and destroyed the entire party.
It's funny that you should mention Jeremy Corbyn, because when you talk about that, I think the 2017 and the 2019 elections, respectively, were one of the best examples of how the supposed marketplace of ideas is a lie.
Oh, completely.
Fabricated by people who know that it's a lie, but benefit from the idea propagating.
Yeah.
Because one of the important things to note about those elections was that the Labour Manifesto, I'm not sure for 2019, but I definitely know for 2017, the Labour Manifesto was costed. It had a lot of innovative ideas, but it was a fully costed and checked manifesto. And yet, because of the media narrative and because the narrative pushed, people saw it as being fiscally unresponsible.
Mm-hmm. When
it
the
was
Conservative manifesto had no costings whatsoever.
It had no costings whatsoever. They defended the lack of costings as being able to be more flexible and not being held to stringent demands. And throughout the campaign, the magic money tree was brought up again and again. Because Labour think there's a magic money tree, but there's no magic money tree. We can't be thinking there's a magic money tree. Labour want to spend, but there's no magic money tree. But the manifesto's fucking costed, you idiots.
Yeah, it's because that doesn't matter. It's like arguing with people online. You never defend, you only attack. Never respond to anything anybody says, because that puts you on the back foot, that puts you on the defensive. You always want forward motion, because then you look like you're winning. And as long as you look like you're winning, people will support you.
The marketplace of ideas ties in very nicely to the fishhook theory, because it is a situation where if you can convince people normally that the best way to get someone on your side is just to have a reasonable, rational debate, when you see people who are taking stances that are far away from what the average ordinary person believes, they're going to say, wow, that is so radical and strange. And there is a litany of people lined up ready to tell you that the left is evil and you're right for thinking that you're good because you are good, because you don't have to change. That's how they get you. Because you see, the thing about people in the centre is that unless they have a specific stake in something, if they're, for instance, person of colour, if they are LGBTI+, if they are any of that, then chances are they already know. But if you're just the average layman, the reason people in this country think that we've had so many elections is because they're not used to the idea that politics matters. And it's so strange to think. But for a lot of people, they think that politics doesn't actually matter and it's just this thing that happens every once in a while, because they never had to experience life with it. Because they're already privileged enough to not need it. And that's how they get you. That's why the marketplace of ideas is terrible and a rubbish lie. Because it isn't fair. It's not weighted equally. It is weighted towards them. And they are ready to snatch you up and say, you were right all along. There's nothing wrong with this country.
It's the whole, do you have the difficult truth or the easy lie? And people will go with the thing which feels most comfortable. And introspection and empathy are hard. And people don't want to think that they might have done something wrong, because everyone's the hero of their own stories, and everyone knows heroes never do anything wrong.
People get very uncomfortable with ideas like returning artifacts from the British Museum. And they get uncomfortable because if they are returned, that means there was something wrong with this country. And if there was something wrong with this country, that means there was something wrong with them. And that's why the right is so powerful, because it doesn't want to change things, it just wants a status quo. And that's what people want. People want that security, they want that comfort, they want the knowledge that it's okay. They haven't done anything wrong. They're not bad. And they look at people on the left and they see the outlying cases that are brought up by the media by fucking idiots like Carl of Swindon. They look at them and they see these flashpoints of escalation and they say, wow, those people are insane. They must all be like that. Because they've constructed this idea of the strawman leftist who hates everything you stand for and won't stop until you are on your knees.
When the reality of the left is that the left just wants everybody to be able to have the things that they want to have. Like, they just want everyone to be equal. They just want everybody to be able to, you know, afford a house to live in and food to eat and to be able to actually live and prosper in society without having this structure, this striated society of working, middle, lower, upper classes that don't really mean anything and all bleed into each other. But at the end of the day, are just a way for people to say, oh, well, at least we're not one of them.
Well, you've got this whole thing that way too many people see everything as a zero-sum game. That if someone's being pulled up, then someone's being pulled down, rather than just saying,
yeah, can't we all just, you know, pull each other up, support each other?
For some people, the knowledge that there are people worse off than them is the only thing that keeps them going. And the idea that those people might be helped up terrifies them, because suddenly what will they have?
Yeah.
If you can convince the worst white man that he's better off than the richest black man, he will vote against his own interests every time. Yep. And that leads us into the final part of the Queen's speech. Say, God. Unity, do you remember when you talked about a potential online bill and how it might be useful to stamp out more hurtful, hateful views?
Oh, God.
Let me introduce the Higher Education Freedom of Speech Bill, which places new legal duties on student unions and universities in England to ensure free speech, and will fine universities for blacklisting and banning speakers.
No.
The Conservative government endorses hate crime.
No.
Yep.
No.
Okay. No. My husband has come up with the solution to this of malicious compliance.
I mean, fair if they want.
And for every right-wing fuckwit that they have to give a platform to, find a left-wing or other person who has views which the right-wing authorities don't like, and have them doing lecture tours saying that why the rich should be there should be no billionaires in the world, etc., etc.
Well, you see, the problem with that is that people like that are usually already allowed to speak, because the idea that there aren't billionaires in the world, unless we're calling for the direct guillotines, that doesn't directly harm anyone.
Not yet.
Meanwhile, having Milo Yiannopoulos, or whatever the fuck how you say
Milo
it.
Yiannopoulos, or fucking Paul Joseph Watson, or Carl of Swindon, or fucking Ben Shapiro.
Alex Jones.
Oh no, Alex Jones would never be seen dead on a fucking university campus. There wouldn't be enough of his supporters there. But like the rest of these fucking idiots, like Ben Shapiro, Nick Fuentes. Oh god, that's a fucking horrible person. All of these people do this in America constantly. This whole like university tour bullshit. And if they like, most of them have been banned in this country. And if they are allowed, like, if they cannot be like physically stopped from being like from speaking at these in these institutions and influencing young impressionable minds with their hate and this horrible evil rhetoric.
There is a point to be made here.
I fucking can't.
There is a point to be made here as well that this is something for universities, and people will say, "Oh, well, you're talking about the impressionable people, but surely university students would understand." And no, you fucking morons. Just because someone is in university does not mean they aren't impressionable to bad ideas.
In fact, they're probably more impressionable because they are the sort of people who spent all of their time just doing education, just being really fucking good at education, being the best that they could be, so they could get into university, because it's actually really fucking hard to get into university. And once you're in university, cool, excellent. How many people in university get hooked on drugs, fuck up their lives completely, drop out of doing their courses and stuff because they have not experienced much of life before that, because all they were doing was just hyper-focusing on their education. Like, they are some of the most impressionable people, and that's why these people go to universities rather than secondary schools or colleges.
There is also the problem that by giving these speakers a platform to speak, you are giving them an air of authority.
Yeah.
Because surely you wouldn't invite someone to speak if they were just some nobody. They must have something to contribute, even if that something is they're a horrible Holocaust denier. They will have an air of authority. The government, through this, the government is not only supporting, but is endorsing things like Holocaust denial, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, homophobia, transphobia, sexism, racism. It is endorsing these things with legal protections. If you try to stop these, we will fine you. And that is terrifying and fucking disgusting that they would do this.
Yeah.
They want to talk about free speech. They want to talk about how it's important for universities to allow a blending of ideas, because we can't have universities be a safe space daycare, and that is a fucking tired excuse from people who haven't stepped foot in universities and don't know what the fuck they're talking about, because they realised that people in universities maybe don't like their ideas because their ideas are fucking disgusting.
You've got a lot of students, like, who are away from home for the first time ever, away from all the constraints of their upbringing,
and their
so
support structures.
They are finding themselves in a fundamental way. That's why so many people come out during their university years, because they've got actually meet people and can question and get a different idea of things.
Yeah, as I said, they're incredibly impressionable people at that age and in that setting. It's just one of those things. It's there's seeing all of this be announced as like, this is what the government wants to do, hurts me deeply. Because even after everything that this government has done to this country, like, it's so easy to look at it and be like, well, Brexit has damaged us hugely, but this is a temporary thing. It's going to cause intense hardship for many people for the next 20, 30 years, but we will get past this. We will move forward. But a lot of this stuff, like, this is based on ideology. This is based on pushing ideology into people's brains. And that's not something that will leave the public consciousness for like 100 years. I mean, look at the politics of Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher. Shite.
Oh,
They haven't
God,
they
yeah.
they haven't left. None of that has left right-wing politics yet. People are still like, it may not be, they may not look to Reagan and Thatcher now, but they're still echoing the talking points of them 50 years later. It hurts me to my core that the government is most likely going to be able to push these hateful laws through and these ways to allow them to gain soft power over the country, even if they do get pushed out, so that in 5 years, whatever, after they get pushed out, they can just claw themselves back in by digging into people's brains and injecting hateful rhetoric, this nationalist rhetoric that says that Britain is strong. Britain used to own a third of the entire world. We were the powerfulest empire ever known. We ruled the waves. The sun never set on our empire. This is the legacy that you come from. And that is, while it may not sound hateful, it is utterly mind-rotting, because you put yourself as part of that legacy above everybody else. This is the rhetoric that gave us Brexit, that said we are England. We can stand above the entire continent of Europe. We can leave them and they need us. So we can leave them and they'll beg for us to come back. What are they doing? They're getting on with their lives. They're getting on with everything. And we are drowning. Our country is falling apart. We've already lost several industries almost entirely. Over $1 trillion has left London from the financial sector for Europe. $1 trillion. That is such an insane amount of money. It's almost impossible to even think about that. That is $1 billion. That is like so huge. The stuff that even like just the regular economy, like the fishing sector is dead. It won't recover. Like once the few fishing communities that have been like relying on catching fish and stuff, once they die, once they stop catching fish, they won't have the money to buy boats again. There won't be any money to start up fish processing plants again. Fishing will die as an industry forever, in the same way that the mining industry did, in the same way that the steel industry has, in the same way that our manufacturing industries have.
At least for the people who historically have been there. Because it's all well and good someone saying, but opportunities in the market will open and people will go in with the capital.
If nobody has the money to do it, then, like, what? Oh, are we going to Amazon fisheries? Oh, fuck.
Well,
We probably are.
Judge
Fuck.
about that.
Potentially.
I've said it. I've said it now, so it's going to happen. Fuck.
Okay, before Unity damns us with any more flippant comments, I believe there's one last thing you wanted to mention, Alexa.
Yes,
Well,
there is.
There's one more thing I want to get to before that. There's one more thing that I think perfectly sums up how horrible this government has been for the UK. The 2017 Grenfell fire was a catastrophe that we haven't seen since 7/7.
Yeah.
And the government promised that they would
Arguably,
take
it's
care of
worse.
it. The government promised that they would take the actions needed to ensure that this would never happen again. And yet,
And people believed them.
more than 3 years later, another building in London goes up in fire, and it has the same cladding.
Fuck, wait, what? When did that happen?
Last week.
Shit.
Yeah.
Last week, The building went up. It has the same cladding.
Oh God!
They promised that they would change things, that they would look into it, and it would never happen again. Now, the company have said that this blaze was not caused by the cladding, but that's not the issue at hand
That's
here. The
weasel
issue
words,
is that
that
the building still has the same cladding that covered Grenfell.
The entire building burnt down. That doesn't happen in big tower blocks because they're built not for that to happen. The reason it's able to happen in this situation is because the cladding breaches the concrete firewalls between each floor and allows fire to creep up the outside of the building. And yeah, sure, the fire was not caused by the cladding. That is true, because, it's cladding. It doesn't catch fire like that. The fire was caused by something else, like it was in Grenfell. Probably a kitchen fire, or something like that, or whatever else in this building. I don't give a fuck. I don't know. But whatever happened, that fire then was able to spread. And sure, we can't say definitively in this case, because it only happened a week ago, that it was spread as a result of this cladding. But given the damning reports from Grenfell and everything every expert has said, that this cladding is so fucking dangerous that an entire building burns down and it's got this cladding. It's very hard to just be like, oh yeah, it's nothing to do with the cladding. Fuck that shit. It has everything to do with that cladding.
The funny thing is that they claimed that work had been done to remove the cladding and that it had begun 2 weeks prior. But 2 weeks prior is still 3 fucking years after Grenfell.
Yeah.
I remember after Grenfell, because, being in council, we had lots of discussions about
you guys are both down
only
there, aren't
tower
you?
blocks in the borough. And we don't have many at the moment, though other things in the Queen's Speech will probably end up with bloody our colleges built on a Richmond Park, or Wimbledon Common. I
wouldn't worry just yet about that.
But yeah, so we've got a couple of tower blocks, and one of the first things we did was, okay, can we find out what the hell these buildings are cladded in, so that we can make sure. Oh, we found out quite quickly because we've got some quite scary people working for us who can get information. We can get the information out of the housing associations, and especially at that time when they were, under a spotlight about it, they were going, "Yeah, we'll cooperate with this." And fortunately, as far as I know, they don't have that cladding on them. So yeah, our buildings are safe. But
cladding has been removed from multiple buildings. Then, at least
I know several local authorities have yanked the cladding from their buildings, or
that's at least something.
Taken other actions.
Yeah,
like improving the fire suppression systems.
It's not really going to help, but sure.
Well, I can't speak.
When the entire outside of the building is on fire, the fire suppression systems inside the building don't help. They stop the building completely gutting, but
which will allow
stops
people
anyone
to
from
evacuate.
escaping as well.
Yeah, depends on the system. Anyway,
fair.
One last thing to speak of.
We have one last thing to speak of.
Yes.
And this strictly isn't a lamentation from Albion.
No.
Well, although we are lamenting, but
it is probably caused by Albion.
I mean, historically, yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So,
very much so.
So, fuck the IDF.
And for anybody that doesn't know what the IDF is, that is the Israeli Defense Force. Yes, fuck Israel.
Fuck Israel.
Yeah, there's, to be honest, both sides. That feels dirty mouth. But
yes,
neither side is blameless. But when you're not targeting tower blocks which have civilians in, you're not the good guys.
Yeah,
I think I can say with certainty that sure, neither side is fucking squeaky clean, but at the same time, there is one country that is enveloping a autonomous zone that was a country and is, shooting people on the border and dropping £1,000 bombs on tower blocks and completely levelling them because they are, quote unquote, targeting militants within their homes.
I can't condone rocket attacks.
No.
But then there is only one side that receives $3.7 billion in military aid from the United States.
Yeah.
This all began, this latest flashpoint began a week ago with Israeli forces throwing bombs into one of the holy mosque sites, the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem.
Was it the mosque that was the first flashpoint, or was it the Muslims who were praying at the town walls that were attacked with water cannons and baton rounds?
Oh,
it was one or the other, and they both came really close together, and I really don't know which, because it's all been a bit confusing.
For the past 24 hours, Israel has been attempting to spin this, that Israel is under attack, that it is being bombarded with rockets, and it is horrible and terrible and completely unjustified. Israel is an apartheid state who suppress a Palestinian minority, deny them citizenship, deny them the ability to marry. Fun fact, Israel has outlawed, has never ratified interracial marriage.
Yeah.
And let's not go on about the illegal occupation of land.
Oh, let's talk about not talk about the West Bank, how they want to control it.
I think that picking apart every crime that Israel does is not hugely useful. They have been doing war crimes and crimes against humanity against the Muslims within their country and within the West Bank, which is an autonomous region that was Palestine before Israel was formed. They have been doing heinous things for decades. Literally 60, 70 years of heinous things. And sure, they can say that they are under attack from all sides. They are surrounded by other Arab and Muslim countries, and there was that whole 5 days war where everybody invaded them and then they won. And you can rehash and litigate and talk about all this kind of stuff, but when it really comes down to it, I think it is fucking disgusting that Israel, a country that was created primarily to give Jewish people that escaped from Europe during World War II, during the height of the Nazi extermination of their religion. It gave them a place to be, it gave them a homeland, it gave them somewhere to feel safe. And then, less than 100 years later, they are doing practically the same kind of stuff to Muslims within their country and autonomous regions and any land that they can get their hands on as the Nazis did to them. The only thing that they're not doing is rounding them up en masse and putting them in fucking camps.
The West Bank?
It might as well be, I know. It's cut off, it's blockaded from the sea and from land, from all trade. You can't get in without passes.
Yeah, the West Bank is effectively barricaded from the rest of the world by Israel.
It boggles my mind and it disgusts me to my core. I will fight against anybody who claims any kind of far-right ideology. Anybody who is anti-Semitic can go and fucking die. But I don't understand why Israel, who is still being run by people who have undergone such trauma could just inflict the same trauma on others. I don't know why is this a thing that they can do.
As we saw with how Jeremy Corbyn handled the anti-Semitism crisis within Labour, there is a need to distinguish the fact and be clear that when we talk about the Israeli state and the actions of the IDF, we are not saying that the Jews are responsible for this.
This isn't the Jews. This is people that have chosen to do really fucking evil things.
This is Prime Minister Netanyahu, his far-right government.
It's more than just Netanyahu. It's there is so much, like, if you speak to people who have come out of the IDF, there is a lot of them, and I mean a lot of them, that come out very far right. It's a radicalization machine almost, and that's worrying.
The state of Israel is a far-right ethno-state that has co-opted Jewish identity to protect itself from legitimate criticism about human rights abuses. And that's fucking sickening.
Thank you for saying what I was trying to say in a much less emotional and much in a much more rational way. I feel like I'm far too emotional for this kind of conversation tonight. It hurts my ability to, like, empathize with humanity, hearing the things that have been going on the last, like, 2-3 weeks. I mean, and it seems like every couple of weeks it just gets worse and worse. There's something else horrible that's going on. There's something else utterly reprehensible in the world, and I don't understand it. I don't understand why humans can do this to other humans.
No. Anyway.
On that rather somber note, we can all agree that we all hope that the people of both Gaza and in Jerusalem, who are totally innocent in this, they remain safe and peace is re-established as soon as possible.
I hope so. What I really hope is that the governments of the world, at least, like, hopefully in Europe, but probably not. But, you know, maybe Biden will stand up and say, hey, maybe just don't do this and take a fucking stand against this sort of shit.
Maybe the world will finally take Netanyahu to task and finally give justice. Maybe it is.
Anyway, we can easily say that we here at Lamentations from Albans stand with the victims of violence.
Fuck yeah.
Free Palestine.
Yeah.
And on that rather somber note, that's all we've got. So I need to get the addresses up again because we're never prepared for this.
Thank you for making me laugh at the end.
So you can find us on Twitter at LamentationsFR1, and you can email us at lamentationsfromalbion@gmail.com. I've been Alexis.
And I've been Unity.
And I've been Cypher Duran.
Thank you, and wherever you are in the world, stay safe.